If your lawn greens up for a week or two after fertilizing and then fades right back to that dull, tired color, the problem is not your grass. It's what's happening underneath it. Most people treat that cycle as normal. Buy the bag, spread it, watch it green up, watch it fade by another bag. Season after season. And the lawn never actually gets better. It just gets temporarily less embarrassing. What nobody tells you is that the fertilizer itself is part of why the cycle keeps repeating. Here's what's actually going on. Your grass cannot absorb nutrients directly from the ground. It doesn't work that way. The roots can only take in nutrients that have already been broken down by soil microbes, the bacteria and fungi living in the top few inches of soil beneath your turf. When those microbes are healthy and active, they convert organic matter into exactly what the grass needs, in exactly the form it can use. That's the system that built every healthy lawn before synthetic products existed. But here's where the damage starts. Most synthetic lawn fertilizers are salt-based. And when you apply them repeatedly, those salts accumulate in the soil and gradually dehydrate the microbial population underneath. The grass gets a quick hit of nitrogen through the leaf surface, turns green fast, and then the effect fades because the soil biology beneath it has taken another hit. You reach for the bag again. The grass responds again. The soil gets a little worse each time. That's not a lawn care routine. That's a dependency loop. The old groundskeepers understood this long before modern soil science caught up. The men maintaining estate lawns and golf courses in the early 20th century were not working with big fertilizer budgets. They were working with what was available: kitchen scraps, fermented liquids, organic waste. And they were getting results that held up season after season without the boom and bust cycle most homeowners are trapped in today. What they figured out through sheer observation and necessity was that if you fed the soil, the grass would take care of itself. And here's the part that rarely gets talked about. Modern soil research coming out of university turf programs has confirmed exactly that. Healthy, biologically active soil with strong microbial populations produces measurably thicker, more resilient turf than soil that has been repeatedly hit with high-salt synthetic fertilizers. The biology does the work. Your job is to keep it alive and well-fed. That's the foundation of everything I'm going to walk you through today. A 4-ingredient tonic that costs almost nothing to mix, applies through a standard hose-end sprayer, and works by feeding the microbial life in your soil rather than forcing a short-term response from the grass blades. I've been using a version of this approach for years, and I've watched it consistently outperform the bag programs. Not in a single dramatic week, but over a full season in ways that actually hold. Make sure to watch the full video to understand the exact mixing ratios and application techniques for the best results. If you find this information helpful for your garden, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay updated on the best natural and sustainable lawn care tips. Before we get into the recipe, there's one thing I want you to hold on to because it changes how you interpret what you'll see. When you switch from synthetic to this kind of soil-first approach, the first 2 weeks can feel underwhelming. You're not going to see that fast chemical green that synthetic nitrogen delivers. What you're doing instead is rebuilding the living system underneath the grass. And that takes a few weeks to show up visibly. By week 3 or 4, the difference becomes clear, not just in color, but in density, in how the lawn feels underfoot, and how it holds up through dry spells instead of going brown the moment you miss a watering. That patience is worth it. And once the soil biology is working properly, you're feeding the system far less often than you were feeding the bag program. Now, let's talk about what actually goes into this tonic. For ingredients, you can find every one of them at a grocery store or hardware store. Total cost for a full gallon of concentrate is under $5, and that gallon will treat a typical backyard lawn multiple times over. The first ingredient is 1 cup of plain, inexpensive beer. Any basic lager works. The reason beer shows up in old groundskeeper formulas is not the alcohol. It's the fermentation byproducts. Beer carries B vitamins and organic compounds from the yeast fermentation process that soil bacteria respond well to. Think of it as a microbial primer, something that wakes up the biological activity in the top layer of soil and signals that more food is coming. The second ingredient is 1 cup of blackstrap molasses, not regular cooking molasses, blackstrap specifically. This is the core food source in the formula. Blackstrap molasses is dense with simple sugars that soil bacteria consume rapidly, and it also carries trace minerals including iron, calcium, and magnesium that gets cycled into the soil over time. This is the ingredient that does the most immediate work. When a bacteria hit the molasses, they multiply fast, and that surge in biological activity is what starts converting organic matter in your soil into plant-available nutrients. The third ingredient is 1 cup of plain household ammonia. This is your nitrogen source, and it needs a bit of explanation. At this dilution, 1 cup in a gallon of concentrate, which then gets diluted again heavily before application. The ammonia breaks down quickly in the soil into a form that microbes can process. The key word here is dilution. You are not pouring straight ammonia on your lawn. By the time this concentrate is mixed into your sprayer and applied across the lawn, the ammonia concentration is very low. Use only plain, clear ammonia, not lemon-scented, not sudsy. Read the label before you buy. The fourth ingredient is 1 cup of plain liquid dish soap, not antibacterial formula. The dish soap acts as a surfactant. It reduces the surface tension of water, which allows the tonic to penetrate the soil surface rather than sitting on top of the grass blades. On compacted soil, this matters quite a bit. Over time, regular surfactant application also helps break down that compaction layer slightly, which improves drainage and root penetration. 1 cup of each into a clean gallon jug. That's your concentrate. Do not apply it directly. It is too concentrated to go straight onto turf and will cause damage if you skip the dilution step. The next part is where most people make the mistake that ruins their results, and it has nothing to do with the recipe itself. The concentrate sitting in that jug is not what goes on your lawn. What goes on your lawn is a heavily diluted version of it, and getting that dilution right is the difference between results and brown streaks across your turf. Here's how to apply it. You'll need a hose-end sprayer, the kind that holds about a quart of liquid and screws directly onto your garden hose. These run about $10 to $12 at any hardware store, and they're worth having regardless of this tonic. Pour 1 cup of your concentrate into the sprayer jar. Just 1 cup. Set the sprayer dial to roughly 2 tablespoons per gallon. When you turn the hose on, the sprayer automatically mixes that concentrate with the water flowing through it. About 20 gallons of water for every cup of concentrate you put in. That's the dilution level you're working with. It sounds like a lot of water, but that ratio is intentional. You're delivering a light, even dose of active ingredients across a wide area. The microbes don't need a heavy application. They need a consistent one. 1 full jar at that setting will cover roughly 2,500 square feet. For a typical backyard lawn, 1 gallon of concentrate mixed this way gives you 4 or more applications. That works out to somewhere around $1 per treatment, sometimes less. Compare that to a bag of synthetic fertilizer at $30 or $40 that delivers 1 application and degrades the soil biology at the same time. And here's something worth saying plainly. More is not better with this tonic. If you double the concentration, thinking you'll speed up the results, you'll stress the grass and overwhelm the very microbe you're trying to feed. The biology in your soil responds to consistent, moderate feeding. It does not respond well to being flooded with too much too fast. Stick to the ratio. The patience pays off more than the impulse to push harder. Timing matters as much as dilution. Apply the tonic in the early morning or early evening. Avoid the middle of the day when sun is strong and temperatures are high. Midday application causes the active ingredients to evaporate off the grass blades before they ever reach the soil, and direct sun on a freshly sprayed lawn can also cause minor leaf scorch. Early morning works best, somewhere between 6 and 8, when the grass blades are still slightly cool, the soil hasn't dried out from the day's heat, and the tonic has time to move down into the root zone before the sun gets strong. Walk at a steady, even pace while spraying. Side to side, like you're painting a wall. No lingering in one spot. You want uniform light coverage across the whole surface, not heavy saturation in some areas and dry patches in others. If you can still see wet beading on the leaves 20 minutes after you've finished, you applied too much. The tonic should absorb relatively quickly. After spraying, water the lawn lightly within the hour. About a quarter inch of water is all you need, enough to carry the tonic from the grass surface down into the soil where the microbial activity actually happens. You're not washing it away. You're directing it to the right place. Now, soil temperature is something most homeowners never think about, and it's one of the reasons results vary so much between regions. Soil microbes slow down significantly when the top few inches of soil drop below 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Below that threshold, the tonic has less biological activity to work with, and your results will be slower or minimal. This is not a year-round program in cold climates. It's a growing season program. If you're gardening in USDA zones 7 through 10, the South, the Southwest, coastal California, much of the Pacific Northwest, you can typically apply from early March through late October. In zones 4 through 6, which covers most of the Midwest and Northeast, your active window runs roughly from mid-April through mid-September. In the colder zones 2 and 3, you're looking at mid-May through late August. In the UK and Northern Europe, follow your soil temperature rather than the calendar. A decent soil thermometer costs almost nothing and takes the guesswork out entirely. Apply every 3 weeks during the active growing season. For most climates, that works out to 6 to 8 applications across the year. Skip applications during extreme summer heat. Sustained temperatures above 90 degrees Fahrenheit for several days in a row will push warm season grasses into stress and cool season grasses into semi-dormancy. Pushing the tonic during those periods doesn't help and can add unnecessary stress. Let the lawn rest when the weather forces it to, then resume when temperatures ease. These habits, the mowing height, the clippings, the watering rhythm, are not extras. They're what make the tonic work properly. The formula feeds the biology. The habits protect it. Pull one out, and the other loses half its effect. Let's talk about the patterns that keep lawns stuck. Not bad luck, not poor soil, not the wrong grass seed. Patterns, specific habits that repeat season after season and quietly cancel out everything else a person is trying to do. I've seen them consistently, and most of them are invisible to the people doing them because they look like reasonable lawn care on the surface. The first one is the 4-step bag program. It's marketed well, it's color-coded, it feels systematic, and millions of homeowners follow it every year. The problem isn't that the products are completely without effect. The problem is what they're optimizing for. Those programs are designed to produce visible results fast, rapid green up, quick thickening, because that's what sells the next bag. What they're not designed to do is build lasting soil health. Year after year of salt-based synthetic fertilizer leaves the soil progressively harder, less biologically active, and less capable of holding moisture. The lawn becomes more dependent on inputs, not less. You end up needing more product each season just to maintain the same mediocre result. That's not a maintenance program. That's a slow decline dressed up as lawn care. The second pattern is daily shallow watering. A struggling lawn looks thirsty, so the sprinklers go on every morning for 15 or 20 minutes. It feels attentive. It looks like care. But shallow daily watering trains grass roots to stay near the surface, right where they're most vulnerable to heat stress and drought. Roots grow toward water. If the water never goes deep, neither do the roots. The old groundskeepers on estate lawns and sports turf knew this intuitively. Water deeply and infrequently. About an inch of water once or twice a week, applied slowly enough to penetrate several inches into the soil. That pulls roots downward, and deeper roots mean a lawn that holds up through a dry week without immediately going brown and brittle. A simple way to measure this: set an empty tuna can or a shallow dish on the lawn while the sprinkler runs. When there's an inch of water in the can, you're done. It sounds almost too simple, but it takes the guesswork out entirely and stops the habit of chronic shallow watering that weakens turf over time. The third pattern is mowing too short too often. There's a logic to it that feels sensible. Cut it short and you won't have to mow again as quickly. But what actually happens is the grass loses the leaf surface it needs to photosynthesize efficiently. The soil gets exposed to direct sun, temperatures at ground level spike, and the microbial environment you're trying to build gets disrupted every time. Scalp turf also creates bare patches that weed seeds fill immediately. You end up fighting weeds that moved in specifically because you created the conditions for them. Raise them or deck. The grass shades itself, shades the soil, holds moisture longer, and stays far more competitive against weed pressure without any extra effort from you. The fourth pattern is harder to spot because it's a mistake made at the right time of year with the right intentions. It's applying any soil amendment, including this tonic, during dormancy or heat stress without checking whether the grass is actually in an active growth phase. People see a yellowing lawn in July and reach for something to fix it. But if the grass has gone into summer dormancy from sustained heat, adding nitrogen or microbial stimulants during that window doesn't help. It adds stress to a plant that is deliberately slowing down to survive. Wait for temperatures to ease. Resume applications when the grass shows active growth again. Patience at the right moment is not passivity. It's sound judgment. Now here's something that doesn't get talked about enough, and it's directly relevant to anyone dealing with a lawn that has been on synthetic fertilizers for several years. When you first switch to a soil-first approach, there's a transition period. The biology in the soil has been suppressed. The microbial populations are reduced. The organic matter has been depleted. The tonic will start rebuilding that, but it takes time, usually a full season before you see the kind of results that a well-established biological system delivers. This is not a failure of the method. It's the soil recovering from years of imbalance. During that transition, the lawn may look patchy. It may green up unevenly. Some areas will respond faster than others, particularly spots where the soil is slightly better. Near compost that has broken down into the turf, under trees where leaf litter has been feeding the soil, along edges where organic debris has accumulated. Those spots will show you what the rest of the lawn is working toward. They're not accidents. They're evidence that the biology works when conditions support it. One thing that accelerates the transition considerably is top dressing with a thin layer of finished compost in spring or early autumn. A 1/4 inch across the entire lawn surface, worked in lightly with a rake or a stiff broom. This does several things at once. It introduces fresh microbial populations directly into the turf, adds organic matter that feeds those populations over time, and improves soil structure gradually in a way that no liquid application can match on its own. University extension programs in both the US and the UK consistently recommend compost top dressing as one of the most effective and lowest cost interventions for long-term lawn health. It pairs with the tonic the way good soil pairs with good seed. Each one makes the other work better. If your lawn has significant compaction, soil that stays hard and dry even after rain, water that pools on the surface instead of soaking in, consider aerating before your first tonic application of the season. Core aeration, where small plugs of soil are pulled out and left on the surface, opens channels for air, water, and biological activity to move through. The tonic applied to a freshly aerated lawn reaches the root zone far more effectively than the same tonic applied to compacted turf. You don't need to aerate every year. Every 2 or 3 years is usually sufficient for most home lawns. But if compaction is significant, one good aeration before you start this program will accelerate your results noticeably. And this is the part most people skip because it feels like extra work at a point when they're already committed to a new approach. But the soil preparation is not separate from the tonic program. It's the foundation the tonic needs to work properly. A well-aerated, lightly top-dressed lawn with active biology will respond to the tonic within 2 to 3 weeks. A compacted, biologically depleted lawn will take a full season. The work you put into the soil at the start shortens the timeline considerably. There's one more piece to this, and it's the finishing detail that separates a lawn that looks healthy from one that looks genuinely impressive. It's something the old golf course groundskeepers used quietly for decades, and it rarely comes up in standard lawn care advice because it doesn't fit neatly into the synthetic fertilizer sales model. Iron, specifically chelated liquid iron, which you'll find at most garden centers for around $15 a bottle. Iron does not work the way nitrogen does. It doesn't push blade growth or force a rapid green up. What it does is intensify the chlorophyll already present in the grass blades, deepening the color from ordinary green to that rich, dark shade you see on well-maintained sports turf and professionally kept gardens. The difference is visible within 7 to 10 days of the first application, and it doesn't come with the surge and fade cycle that nitrogen produces. The color simply deepens and holds. Turf research out of university programs in both the US and the UK has documented iron's role in chlorophyll development for decades. It's not a fringe idea. It's a well-understood micronutrient relationship that gets overlooked because iron doesn't produce the dramatic fast response that nitrogen does, and dramatic fast responses are what the fertilizer industry sells. But for anyone who wants that deep, consistent color rather than a 10-day spike followed by disappointment, iron is the ingredient that makes the real difference. Here's how to add it to the program. Once a month during the active growing season, add 2 ounces of liquid chelated iron to your hose-in sprayer along with a regular tonic concentrate. Not every application. Once a month is sufficient. More frequent iron application can lead to accumulation in the soil, and at high levels, iron can interfere with the uptake of other micronutrients. Once a month, 2 ounces through the sprayer with a regular tonic. That's the rhythm. One practical note: liquid iron stains. It will mark concrete, paving stones, and any hard surface it lands on with a rust color mark that is genuinely difficult to remove. Be deliberate with your spraying near paths, driveways, and patios. If you do get overspray on hard surfaces, rinse it off immediately before it dries. This is not a reason to avoid iron. It's just a reason to be careful with the sprayer near edges. Now, let's put the whole system together so it's clear in one place. The tonic concentrate is 4 ingredients: beer, blackstrap molasses, plain household ammonia, plain dish soap, 1 cup of each in a gallon jug. 1 cup of that concentrate goes into the hose-in sprayer. Set to 2 tablespoons per gallon. Applied at a steady walking pace in the early morning or evening. 1/4 inch of water after application to carry it into the soil. Every 3 weeks during the active growing season, which runs from roughly mid-spring to early autumn, depending on your zone and your soil temperature. Mow at the upper end of the appropriate height range for your grass type. Leave the clippings. Water deeply once or twice a week rather than shallowly every day. Top dress with finished compost in spring or early autumn if the lawn has been on synthetics for several years. Aerate if compaction is a problem. Add 2 ounces of chelated liquid iron to the monthly application for color depth. That's the complete system. It's not complicated. It doesn't require expensive equipment or specialized knowledge. It requires consistency and a willingness to let the soil do the work instead of forcing results through chemistry. That shift in thinking is actually the hardest part for most people because we've been conditioned to expect fast, visible responses from lawn products. The soil-first approach asks you to trust a slower process that builds something real underneath rather than performing on the surface. But here's what that trust delivers by the end of a full season. A lawn with genuine root depth. Turf that holds its color through dry spells instead of going immediately straw-colored. Grass that recovers faster from foot traffic, from heat, from a missed watering. Soil that smells faintly earthy and alive when you dig into it. The smell of active biology doing what it's supposed to do. And a maintenance rhythm that costs a fraction of what the bag program costs, while producing results that actually compound over time instead of resetting every spring. It's also worth saying directly, this approach is not precious or fragile. If you miss an application cycle, the soil doesn't collapse. If you have a bad weather month, you pick up where you left off. If one area responds more slowly than another, you adjust and keep going. There's a resilience built into working with biology rather than around it. The system forgives the occasional misstep in a way that synthetic dependency never does. For anyone starting from a lawn that has been on heavy synthetic programs for several years, set your expectations for a full season of transition. You may see modest improvement in the first 8 weeks and more meaningful change in weeks 10 through 16. By the following spring, if you've kept the rhythm through the growing season, the soil underneath will be measurably different, softer, darker, more biologically active, and the lawn above it will reflect that. Growth that builds on itself rather than resetting is the goal. That's what this program is actually designed to produce. One last thing before you head out. If your lawn has significant bare patches, compacted areas that haven't responded to anything, or specific pest and disease pressure, those are separate problems that need separate attention. This Tonic is a soil health program. It is not a cure for grub damage, fungal disease, or severe pH imbalance. Get a basic soil test before you start. Most cooperative extension offices offer them at low cost, and some state programs offer them free. Knowing your soil pH and basic nutrient profile tells you whether there are underlying issues that need to be corrected before the biology can fully respond. A lawn sitting at a pH of 5 or 5.5 is going to be slow to respond to any program, including this one, until the pH is brought closer to the 6 to 7 range that most grass types prefer. Fix the foundation first, then feed the biology, then let the system build. If anything in today's video gave you a different way to think about your lawn, whether it's the soil micro piece, the molasses application, the iron finishing trick, or just the idea that the whole approach can be simpler and cheaper than the bag aisle at the garden center, drop the word grow in the comments. It helps more people find this content, and it tells me what's actually landing with the people watching. Give the video a like if it was worth your time. There's more coming on soil health, compost, and practical growing systems for people who want a garden and a lawn that actually work for them rather than the other way around.